Greetings, loyal listeners! This is the Real Context News Podcast, and I'm its host, Brian Frydenborg. Today is December 29th, 2023, and a week ago, on December 22nd, I had one of the distinct honors of my life, truly, I'm not overstating this at all, to interview a remarkable human being. I traveled to the grounds of the U.S. Capitol in Washington to interview truly a hero, Staff Sergeant, formerly of the United States Army and a veteran of the Iraq War, and formerly of the U.S. Capitol Police for nearly 2 decades, Aquilino Gonell, an immigrant from the Dominican Republic who put his life on the line multiple times in multiple roles for this country. And I mentioned Iraq. Not only did he face danger over in Iraq against some of America's foreign enemies, but he stared down the biggest domestic insurrection since the Civil War and Reconstruction era in the United States, the first major attack on the U.S. Capitol since the War of 1812. Somewhat misnamed because the attack happened from British troops in 1814. But Aquilino Gonell was there on January 6th. He was there honoring his oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America when the then President Donald Trump was doing the opposite, trying to overturn it by sending a mob, knowing exactly what they were going to do. Well, surely hoping at least that that's what they were going to do, and prepping them to do what they ended up doing, which was engage in a violent assault that harmed and injured many of the police, of the Capitol Police, defending the U.S. Capitol, with Aquilino Gonell, one of those, being severely injured. He's still recovering from his injuries and the trauma of that day. But he stayed there and he held the line with his fellow officers. He fought for their lives. He fought to protect and defend the Constitution, to protect American democracy. He fought against these raging, violent insurrectionists who were hell-bent on disrupting the proceedings, disrupting the peaceful transition of power, preventing it from happening, pressuring the members of Congress to vote a certain way that would have tried to derail the whole process that was happening that day. This was a rally that had been rescheduled to happen the same time as the transfer of power, to threaten, and in some cases clearly kill members of Congress, maybe even their staff. This man and many others wearing a police uniform that day risked everything to protect all of them, to protect members of both parties in the House and the Senate. He had their back regardless of their political beliefs, but subsequently, many, many Republicans have not had his back, or the backs of those who fought to defend all of us on January 6th against domestic traitors and insurrectionists. This man survived that experience. And not only did he survive, he testified to the January 6th committee, emotionally, bravely, along with his colleagues, Officers Michael Fanone, Harry Dunn, Daniel Hodges, with Officer Hodges memorably having his face and his head stuck in the door to the Capitol. And we could see that up close, and him screaming in pain while the mob clawed at his face. That's what these men went through. They're amazing. I met all of them. I'm fortunate to have met all of them. They're all amazing. But it is Aquilino Gonell today, whose story I am most interested in, sharing with you, as I had the honor to go to the scene of the crime. Truly the crime of the century. We've never seen anything like it. People say, oh, we've never prosecuted a former president like this. Yes, because no one did anything like Trump did in his position before. An unprecedented act requires an unprecedented response. So anyway, Staff Sergeant Gonell has his new book out, American Shield, which I have right behind me, actually. And you should definitely buy it. I will also include other links to some of his television appearances, because not only did he testify to the January 6th committee, he's on CNN and being interviewed by different news organizations constantly. He's on TV a lot about these issues because he sacrificed a lot, and he wants to make sure that the country does the right thing to honor that sacrifice by fighting against insurrection, by fighting to preserve democracy, by standing up for those who stood up for us on January 6th. Not the mob, if you're deranged. No. But people like Aquilino Gonell. So it truly was an honor to speak with him. I will just warn you, though, he certainly doesn't hold back, nor should he. In the spirit of not holding back throughout this discussion, there's definitely adult language that is used. So I advise anyone who might be listening to this with young children, some viewer discretion could be appropriate, but I would say that none of the words he uses are inappropriate. I would say they're all fair. And I would say his raw, unfiltered take on what's happening is important for people to hear. Even older children, maybe not the younger ones. But that's up for parents to decide. But yes, there is definitely some adult language and colorful descriptions of the people and events and circumstances of what's going on. And I think that just adds to the interview and to let you know that this man is not fooling around. This is not some kind of PR stunt. He's not just trying to sell a book. He cares deeply, deeply about these issues, and he wants us to care deeply as well. And it's our duty to him and the country that we do so. And towards that effort, allow me to present to you my discussion with truly a hero, an immigrant to this country who has done more to defend it than many people who were born here as U.S. citizens. You know, from the Dominican Republic all the way to the U.S. Capitol. Here we have Staff Sergeant Aquilino Gonell.
Dear listeners, I am here with, and I'm probably making blush a bit, but truly a hero, a patriot, a role model for anybody who's listening, not just in America, but anywhere, whether it's the Dominican Republic or anywhere in the world. Staff Sergeant of the U.S. Army and formerly of the U.S. Capitol Police, Aquilino Gonell.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
El gusto mío. My high school Spanish come a little bit back, but because I was reading some of the earlier part of your book, and I really want to get into that. But first of all, I want to touch base on two very recent things that happened, and then zoom in on your life and your journey and what happened here. We are actually here on the grounds of the Capitol, where, frankly, I hope in the future that the U.S. National Battlefield Park Commission actually considers this a battlefield because of what happened and what you went through. So, but you are part of such a proud tradition embodied by my own grandparents who came on a boat from Ireland, and your family who came over from the Dominican Republic, of immigrants who have been making this country better and better and stronger ever since, even before it was a country. And the president recently made a comment about immigrants polluting the blood of our nation. And I just wanted to know what thoughts you had on that.
It's very striking, coming from a person who is married to an immigrant, not color immigrant, but nevertheless is still an immigrant. And it's disheartening because he berates the policies of immigration policies. He had the opportunity to fix the immigration system when he had the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, all under his power, government power, and they had the opportunity to address some of these issues. and instead um, make it normal for people to be demonized for just wanting to be here in the United States. Again, he's married to a Slovenian immigrant, uh, someone who had benefited it from the same chain migration that he described and demonized others for using. So I don't know whether he got into a fight with Melania or not. And maybe that's why he's saying that she poisoned, or the immigrants are poisoning the blood of Americans. But last time I checked, we have made a lot of contribution to this great country. I mean, I myself wasn't born here. I'm a naturalized citizen, and yet I'm a couple of steps away from the same spot where I defended this country here in the United States at the Capitol, when the mob of natural-born citizens attacked me and my colleagues. I served this country great with honors, both overseas, home, and abroad. And for him and others just to single out certain immigrants because our color is disingenuous, is a shameful things to do. And I get it. People say, "Oh, he only saying those things for political rhetoric," or he doesn't mean. Well, what do you mean he doesn't mean what he says? I mean, he was saying similar things about stopping the steal, and guess what happened on January 6th? Should I not take his word for what he says? Should I take it as a joke or at my own expense? Um, I went through a lot on January 6th because a lot of people didn't take him at his word that he's going to stop the steal according to what he was saying, or he didn't mean to send the mob or making excuses. So it's a lot of things that people need to understand, that when a president or someone as influential as he is, people are going to take his words literally for what he says. They told those people to come to the Capitol and try to stop the transfer of power, just like he says at the ellipse on January 6th. So whether it's immigration or any other topic, take him for what he says. Um, we don't have to learn the highway uh, what he means, because he's telling us what he's going to do on our second term. He's not. It's not a matter of what if or what is he going to try to do. He's telling us what he's going to do. He's going to round out immigrants. He's going to start deportation. He's going to incarcerate people for what they look like. No judicial process is going to be implemented to figure that out. He's telling us that he's not going to do that. And he even said that he wants to be a dictator. So what else do you want? If you are fine with him being a dictator, I don't know what you or anybody else are thinking, because we have fought countless of wars overseas to change regimes, to change and dispose dictators, and yet you are fine with that type of rhetoric, yet you are okay with having a dictator, even if it's for a day. That doesn't bother you? Really? He had changed you that much that you are entertaining granting him that power? What is there to stop him for to not be just for one day? That's scary. But you won't see it until it's on you. And I'm sorry. I mean, I don't have no respect for you if you are entertaining those things.
I would agree completely. And the other point of immediate business with the recent news, you're a naturalized citizen. And that means under the Constitution, there are particular rules about who and cannot be president.
Yes.
and we also have the 14th Amendment, and it's clear from that if you took an oath to defend the Constitution and then later tried to engage in insurrection or rebellion or give any kind of support to that, you are ineligible. And we had the state Supreme Court ruling in Colorado declaring that Trump was ineligible because of this, because they said it's clear he took part in an insurrection. What's your view as to whether or not Trump engaged in an insurrection or not?
I mean, it's pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious to me on January 6th when I'm getting attacked by the same people that he sent over to stop the transfer of power. We all heard him tell those people at the ellipse on January 6th. He pointed them towards the Capitol. And it's not just January 6th. January 6th was a culmination of his efforts.
Exactly. A lot of people try to make out like, oh, it's just one day, one incident, but that's
it's
clearly
multiple
not the case.
things. It was a multi-pronged efforts, through the legal system, through the not legal system, the electoral system, through intimidations. I mean, just yesterday, there were new tapes just came out about his efforts in the state of Michigan. Whether it's Colorado or Michigan or any Arizona or any of the other places that he was contesting or challenging the results because he didn't like that he was losing. You can believe whatever you want to. Just don't act on those beliefs. I believe that I won the Powerball the last two times. It was $2 billion over.
You can't go take the money from the state.
I believe I won that money. Guess what? I didn't fucking play it, so I cannot claim it. But I still believe I could have won. Now, am I going to go into that building and break in and demand that money be given to me? No, it doesn't work that way. And if you do think that that's how it works, then you're full of shit.
Amen to that.
You believe anything you want. Just don't try to force other people to believe what you want or hurt somebody because of those beliefs. You are living in the land of the free. Don't tell me I'm free and then try to control my body.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who try to say that this was a free speech issue or it was a riot.
Look, you cannot. It's illegal to yell fire in a crowded room or crowded place. Guess what? He sent a mob. He yelling fire in the heart of the country, where the very system of governance was at stake. Something was happening there at the Capitol, and that was the transfer of power, and he wanted to disrupt that. And he pointed to the mob. He told the mob, he assembled the mob on January 6th on the Capitol. He told them, be there. It's going to be wild. Wild for who? It wasn't wild for me. It was surviving.
And that's one of the striking things about your book when I'm reading that chapter. A lot of people in the heat of battle, they're focused just on what second to second, minute to minute, and they're not thinking about the big picture. But the whole time, you were basically aware of what was at stake and what was happening. It wasn't just, there's people, like you put it all together in real time. Can you elaborate on that?
In my book, American Sho, look,
and you can all get it at Amazon and elsewhere, folks. I'll have links in my...
The book is not just about January 6th. It's about multiple layers, multiple things that I had done throughout my life. Most of it is to help not only myself, but to help my family and friends and people that I know. And on January 6th, as I stay in the book, I worked there for 17 years. I never had any issue with anybody. I never done any arrests before that. Just to let you know how peaceful it was before. I never got into a shouting match match with anybody. I never assaulted anybody. Nobody assaulted me. I gave peaceful tour, real tour to people, to American people from all walk of life, and even people from around the world. Never in my life, not even during the Bush years when there was daily demonstration here at the Capitol, because I was a rookie back then. I walk among the crowd. I've done so many First Amendment right of assembly.
And did people ever call you racial insults or names or scream at you?
Nothing of those things. And on January 6th here,
see, that's people are saying you're talking about people that were those were protests. What happened on January 6th, again, people try to say it was a riot or a protest. It's beyond that, right?
Look, if they say, a lot of people say, it was a protest that got out of hand. It was not a riot. It was peaceful. It was peaceful where? Almost a block away from the entrance where I was fighting. And many people, they say, well, where I was, it was not violent. It was peaceful. How close were you to the entrances? How close were you where I was in the tunnel, where the president normally comes out to get to be sworn in? I was there for nearly I'd say probably 4 hours. And in that moment, I had moments that I could have lost my life. That were moments that I could have taken somebody's life. My colleagues were doing the same thing. And it wasn't peaceful. I was bleeding from both my hands. I was injured on my foot. I was injured on my left arm.
Yeah, someone had hit you.
Somebody hit him in the head,
baton, right?
Among other things. They taken our police gear to then use it against us in a way that was not even the right way to do. Because in order for you to use some of these things, you have to be trained. All these people were never trained for it, and yet they were beating us up.
And some of them told you they had guns, they just weren't using them, which is one of the reasons your folks didn't use
They
theirs.
had guns. Look, we didn't have security screening procedure because, they breached the Capitol ground. All these areas, look, if you go from here, from this circle, all the way to the other side, that was restricted. We had signs all over the place, and they took those down. So, again, when many people say nothing happened on January 6th, well, nothing happened to who? To the crowd of people that were almost a block away or 300 yards away from the entrances. Nothing happened to them, but it did happen to me because I was fighting for my life. I was fighting to protect the building. I was fighting to protect the member of Congress, which now today they tell me, well, nothing happened, and if it did happen, it's not as bad as you say. And you know what? If it did happen, it was somebody else. It wasn't Trump supporter.
If nothing happened to Senator Hawley, why are you running away from the crowd? Remember?
Exactly. So you got multiple things that people, they keep moving the goalposts of what that event happened. Remember, it was Antifa. Now these are peaceful protesters. Now these are hostages. Now these are patriots. So which one is it? Which one is it? Because you confusing the shit out of everybody else. I know I'm not, because I was there.
And I remember how Trump knowingly lied when he tweeted. When he finally tweeted to the protesters, he said, "Remain peaceful." He was watching it on television. He knew they were not peaceful. By that time, so that was a lie.
By that time, there were many officers who were injured, and then the crowd. I remember now, like looking back at the time when he said those things, when he put in that tweet. I could see that's. I remember that now that's around like putting together the time and the actions of the mob. That is the time when the violence became more aggressive. The rioters, especially because like, what the fuck? We already committed. We already doing the violence, and now this motherfucker is telling us, "Oh, remain peaceful."
It's encouragement in its own way of violence, clearly.
And pretty much, even though he put that the tweet, he only put that tweet because
under pressure.
Under pressure, and to cover himself. To
Sure.
look,
And he was watching it. He knew they weren't peaceful.
This is what I had. This is what I did. Look, the way I see it kind of like two neighbors. One of them have a dog that is violent, is aggressive, and the dog jumps over the fence and attacks the son or the neighbor, and the guy just watches everything from okay, maybe I'll stop him. And the dog only listens to the neighbor, to the owner, and meanwhile the neighbor is like crying for help. Help, 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 help. And by the time that wife comes back and tells, hey, I think you should call your dog over, help your neighbor. The dog only, you had the influence to do something about what the dog is doing, but yet you chose to not to do anything. So the dog maimed the other person, and then I did try. I made the effort to call the dog back. How much effort did you put into? So it's ridiculous that someone who had that much influence on that day, somebody who was being told, even allegedly by his own daughter, his own advisor, hey, they're attacking the Capitol. They are breaching the Capitol. They are assaulting officers. You should stop them. You should do something. Mark Meadows, Kay Hutchinson, and all these people were telling him all these things. And yet he chose not to. Oh, look, they're fighting for me. Look, even fucking Kevin McCarthy. Oh, that conversation that he had,
which he probably would claim didn't happen now.
Well, he claimed that he wasn't that because when I remember when on the January 6th committee they said they played the audio. He said, Kevin, I guess they are more upset about the election than you are, Kevin. And this guy is like, I can't believe. Who the fuck you think you talking to? I'm being the one carrying water for you, and you putting my life on the line? And people think that that's bravery? Bravery for what? Same thing. It's the same thing with Mike Pence.
Even the statement he put out, it was, I don't have the power to change. It wasn't, this is blatantly false, there's no basis. He was still, even in that moment, he was trying to have both ways.
Trying to justify. I mean, like Mike Pence last year, he said, well, a lot of people are dueling too much on that one day on January 6th. Well, that one day almost cost me my life. Well, that one day they were chasing your ass and trying to hang you. And they were saying, hang Mike Pence, not hang with Mike Pence. It's just a subtle difference right there.
Yeah.
It's just a slight difference.
Slight.
And then later on last year, they asked him whether he believes what the former president did was criminal. He goes, I think it was this year. He said, he goes, well, I don't think what the president said and did was criminal. I think it was reckless. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, really, motherfucker? You should have told me that on January 6th. And I'm gonna let those motherfuckers go in and get to you so you can find out how reckless your boss would want it to be with your life and with your daughter and wife right next to you and the nuclear codes. I'm saying those things, but most likely I would just do my job anyway, because I that's what that was my duty. That was what I was supposed to do. But the mere fact that he's now saying that the president was reckless, not criminal, that tells you how much courage.
Yeah, and look at Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Like they can't even. Oh, it was wrong. I mean, wrong is running a red light.
If
it's not insurrection. Insurrection is.
If I'll be saying that Antifa was trying to run this place, and I did the same things that I did to prevent the mob, Trump supporters breaching the Capitol, they will be praising me on Fox News and all these right wings things. But because I'm not saying that, they hate me. They don't like the truth. They don't like the narrative. They think it's okay. But would they be okay with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris doing that in 2025? I don't think they will be happy if any of those two individuals try to do the same thing, and then if the officer try to stop the mob, I'm sure that they would want the mob to be let in again. Why are you stopping the mob? It's mind-boggling the way that they contort themselves trying to justify misbehavior, the conduct of what the former president is alleged to have done,
or to lie about what actually happened.
Exactly. So, for them to call them political prisoners, hostages, peaceful protesters, who are we then? The officer. If those are the good guys, then what are the police officers who defended the cop?
And they claim to support law and order and the police and the rule of law.
After January 6th, I stopped believing that. So whatever, they're just talking out of their ass, pretty much, because publicly they will say those things, but they have the opportunity to actually do something about it, like Mitch McConnell, to hold those people accountable, and the same thing with Kevin McCarthy. They chose to side with the people violating the Constitution rather than defending the Constitution.
And that day, you weren't there to protect Democrats and not Republicans. You were there protecting everybody. You had their back, and they didn't have your back.
As I speak in my book, American Sho, look, I did my job. I know politics, but I don't share my views with people, especially at work. I was just doing my job. I kept my oath. I defended both equally. If I didn't, then I would have said, you know what, by all means, go through. But I did not remove myself from the danger.
And one of your buddies saved Mitt Romney. You wrote about that as well.
I'm sorry?
One of your buddies on the force saved Mitt Romney.
Yeah, I mean, we were just simply doing our job, regardless of who we were protecting. I mean, that's our job. No matter who's in power, who are we defending, whether you're gay, straight, Democrat, Republican, independent, religious or not. It's our job. And policing is not easy.
And that's something that really bothers me, is that you don't do your job in a partisan way. You view everyone there as to be protected, and yet the extremist Republicans, the MAGA Trump crowd in Congress, they don't apply the same standards to themselves, to the January 6th.
Well, because they don't care. They don't care about anything else but themselves and the position of power that they have. If they truly believe that they support the police, that they are the party of the rule of law, the party of responsibility, they will hold this guy accountable for the many violations of to the Constitution, to the policies, the norms, regulations, or clauses that he had breached all in this 4 years since he was in power. For someone to incite an insurrection and then to target a branch of his own government and then be let off the hook because the majority leader, Mitch McConnell, at that time, was asking for political favors. And he didn't think that the former president should be held accountable or barred from political life. That's insane. What else he had done since he was impeached, since he left office? He had classified documents in public area where he says...
At a resort.
In a resort, exactly. Where many members of that resort had access to potentially spies or mishandling that information. The way that they justify that. Oh, it was a storage issue. God forbid if I had a storage issue when I was in the military, and I had to.
If you did, you would have been prosecuted.
Well, look at it this way. Teixeira,
Yeah.
that the guy who shared documents and information about Ukraine war a few months ago, I think over the summer.
And there was the guy not too far back on the submarine. He was prosecuted.
He was saw in charge within 2 weeks of that happening. Up on their learning of what he did. This guy. He'd been now free for
and they asked him
years.
for over a year. They were asking, please give us the documents back. Please, sir.
So it was not like he didn't have ample time to return it. And then when he did, he was like, oh, just give him those. I'll keep these. Hey, what about the other ones? Oh, no, that's it. That's what I have. God forbid if I did that. But anyway, he so keep surviving some of these things, and that's because the Republican Party keep rubber stamping his behavior. They keep justifying his conduct or not holding him accountable at all for any of the things that he alleged to be had done, whether they're good or bad.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 leading presidential candidates for the Republican nomination
and they don't
won't condemn him in strong terms. Only Chris Christie.
And that's on them. I mean, it's kind of like, again, many of them, they were like, they selectively outrage about something that the other party does, but not what their party do. Remember the wall on the border, the one that
the 56 miles that Trump built, the new wall.
No, he fixed the border. Remember, he fixed it altogether. So, and Mexico paid for it. And I don't know what he said. He fixed the border, but then why all these people are able to come in? The wall broke down, corroded itself. So he's an oil snake oil self person, and if you like to smell like snake, then keep buying your oil. I don't have time for your BS. I don't have time to make up things. 1 + 1 is still 2, not 10, not 5, and
although that's the platform of the Republican Party these days, is 1 + 1 is 10, essentially.
Unfortunately, and the sad thing is, like, he's running, especially on just 2020. What is he proposing that's going to help their lives? Nothing. What is he proposing to help the country? Nothing, other than being vile,
deporting people,
taking people's health care, and calling those people hostages, the January 6ers. People who assaulted police officers have been convicted of doing so.
And that's literally the 14th Amendment, giving aid or comfort to those having taken part in insurrection or rebellion. That's literally the text, and he's doing it now still.
And he's still doing it. I mean, I cannot vote for this guy. I won't. I mean, I may be biased because what the things that he did or didn't do, because January 6th is a result of what he did by action or inaction. He could have had told those people the minute that they started breaching the Capitol Police line and say, you know what, this is not what I had in mind.
And he could have sent people over to help reinforce you guys.
Give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he didn't know. Let's say that he was not aware. But when he was notified by his own daughter, what did he do?
And he was watching it on TV the whole time.
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I was fighting for my life. So it's hard for me to allegedly, he was watching.
According to his own people.
But what I'm saying is, he had the opportunity. If you give him the benefit of that, let's say he had nothing to do with it. This is an attack 16 blocks away from the Capitol, from the White House, in broad daylight. what did he do? Did he pick up the phone and call the Pentagon and say, you know what, send mobilize the National Guard to help out? He didn't do those things. Or he didn't tweet it about to the mob and say, this is not
He
what
did
had
tweet an attack on Mike Pence.
He didn't tweet to the mob and say, this is not what had him up. You need to leave the Capitol. Instead, on through the January 6th committee research and investigation, he wanted to join the mob. I don't know for what, because he's a coward. I mean, one day when he was in the White House, the light went off and he had the arms out on the table, and by the time the light came back on, he was like embracing himself. Kind of like, uh, when the eagle kind of like almost bit him. I don't know if you've seen that clip.
Yes.
That was a gift. That's bravery right there, or the lack of, if you say. But he demonized everybody else, whether you're a police officer or a veteran, or someone in any capacity that served this country for 30, 20, 40 years. Like you look at Mike Miller, the general, the Joint Chief of Staff. He's somebody who devoted his life for almost 40 years in service. And to him, he's dumb. He's a traitor. But what service, what sacrifices had Donald Trump done for this country?
And he treated McMaster and Mattis the same way.
All these people,
General Kelly.
all these people that they are considered patriots, people who are considered great American veterans and soldiers. All these people have done great sacrifices to serve and protect this country, and those are the people that he demonized, including John McCain, because he doesn't like what they've done to him or what he thinks is a betrayal to him.
It's about him, not the country.
And what those people have done, like myself, is protect the Constitution, protect this country, not him. And if he did all these things on the banner in the last 4 years, when he was constrained, when he had those guardrails, if he wins again, he won't have those guardrails. He will have people who are going to be yes men, and they're going to do his bidding regardless. I know.
I totally agree. And I want to get to, because you were talking about service, I want to get to your military service. Even before that, going back to your book, in the beginning of your book, you're a proud Dominicano. You came over here, I think it was 92.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is, even from the beginning, almost in kind of a sick sign of things to come, there was danger for you right when you came. Your father was shot, and your mother was almost shot in one night within 2 weeks of you coming here. And that was a big moment for you, because you end up having to do a lot to support your family from that moment.
There's a lot of things that happened to me. Like as I speak in my book, American Sho, you have multiple layers that I had to learn how to adapt really quickly. The first one, like you said, within 2 weeks of getting here, my dad got shot. So that was an ordeal. I didn't know the language, nor my brother and my mom. So the assimilation began really on a bad foot, if you could say. Then 2 years later, he got stabbed. That was another misfortune right there, another setback. Every single time I tried to do something and overcome, then something else would have happened. And I thought I had everything figured out by January 6th, 2021, where everything was comfortable. I reached, in the past I had, and let me go back a little bit, I assimilated to the culture of the American culture, learned the language.
And it wasn't easy for you. You had a tough time at school.
Yeah.
You had to really keep at it.
Yeah. So I had to learn the language. I had to learn getting an education. Then I had to pay for that education. Join the military. went overseas to fight in the Iraq War. Came back, finished my education, and became a police officer.
And you talked about you had
2006.
a school trip when you were really little. And you got to meet a Capitol police officer, and that kind of
Yeah.
can you elaborate on that a bit?
It was this high school field trip. It started out as a way for me to get out of class, and it became kind of like the seed moment where I had a positive influence in my life. And before I knew, I was back here at the Capitol.
When you first saw on
10
that trip, when
10
you
years.
first saw what was it like? Because I remember the first time I saw the Capitol, I'd never seen any building. To me, it's the most beautiful building.
It's
I've ever
amazing.
seen.
I mean, you have every single step you take where you get that drop off over there on that side, and every footstep that you take to get closer to the Capitol, you've become and you feel very small. And I don't know if you ever have happened, like you're looking up and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's a magnificent view. And you don't have no choice but to feel small to the enormity of this huge building, that a building that shaped a lot of things that happen around you, around the world, and so many people get affected. I think learning that early on when I got here, then I think it was almost 10 years later that I found myself applying for that job in New York. I didn't think.
But you always kind of had it in your head.
Not necessarily, but I did remember, and then because when I did apply for, all I saw was that I remember is I saw the announcement looking for police officer. It says Capitol Police. I thought a U.S. Capitol Police, but I thought it was to the capital of New York.
So when you submit the application, you didn't realize it was
I didn't realize it was
great.
here, so it was kind of like find out the highway. Like, oh crap! I thought it was just each state capital that I was applying for, not the capital of the United States. So that was kind of like eye opening. That caught me off by surprise, because the other thing that happened was when I applied in 2003, then I got mobilized to go overseas to Iraq. And by the time I came back, I had forgotten to apply for Capitol Police. And I talked to my cousin, hey, don't you remember you told me you applied for Capitol Police? And then I told him, well, I don't remember that, but I could call them and find out if I passed, and that's what I did. So when I call them, they tell me, oh yeah, you took the test, you passed it. And okay, how soon can you be down here? Then they told me, I told them that I could be there within 2 weeks.
And you were totally done with your Iraq service at that point.
Yeah.
Could you? What was it like? Going to Iraq. What was your experience like there, and how did you feel about the whole thing? I'd say during and then after. Have the way things unfolded since your service, has it changed how you look back on your time there?
A lot of things have changed since I joined the military. I joining the military gave me a lot more confidence. It opened a lot of doors in my opinions.
And you finished as a staff sergeant. You must have done quite well. I mean, you must have distinguished yourself.
One thing that I was mentioning about earlier is it's my perseverance, my adaptation to adversity and obstacles and challenges. These are things that I've done my whole life, even from the time that I was a little kid in the Dominican Republic, when I had to adapt early on in Brooklyn to deal with the assimilation and the struggles here in the U.S. Um, so every single time that this I have faced something, I may fail the first time, but then I come around.
Even in
or
school, you know,
even in
it's
school.
so
Yeah, so it took me longer to graduate. It took me almost 8 years. I might as well could have gone to medical school and it would have been done. But every single time there's something that I had challenged my standing, I had tried to approach it in a different way. I may fail one way, but then I tried another one, and I think January 6th is no different. Uh, I think at that time, on January 6th, as I speak in my book, American Sho, is that I had everything figured out. I had a good life. I had reached the middle class.
you were father.
I had a, I had a family. I have graduated. I paid all my debts. I have just bought a house like a couple of years before. So I was in the upswing, saving money and all this stuff. And then here is January 6th, where all those things were taken away from me. Like lost my health, I lost my career, uh, and my sense of uh, faith in the United States, because you got all these people, including the people who assaulted me, including the people who I defended, telling me that what happened to me was unnecessary. What happened to me didn't happen to me.
And weren't there even some people on the Capitol Police Force that didn't end up? I know Officer Fernando has spoken about that. Did you have the same?
Not necessarily. I mean, look, I know where there was one instance where one officer was charged trying to help the mob in the aftermath. His name is Michael Riley, I believe, and he was sentenced to prison for it. But I think that day people were doing the most they could, the job that they
I mean, it's amazing.
I cannot
remember
speak
reading
about
your book where you talk about it's just a few hundred of you, and you're all seeing tens of thousands of people, and you guys didn't run away. You stayed.
I stay where I was. I remain on my post, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Regardless what other officer did or not, I know that I took my oath seriously. I did what I was supposed to, and you could question everybody else. I can only tell you what I did and what I defended in the area where I was. Most of the officers were fighting for their lives. Most of the officers were, like myself, were defending the Capitol.
And you never faced anything you felt that dangerous in Iraq the whole time you were there.
I have look. When I say January 6th is no comparable to Iraq, is because look, in Iraq I knew that we were in a war zone. I knew that there was the possibility that I wouldn't make it. I knew who the enemy was or what they looked like. On January 6th here, unfortunately, it was done by our own citizen, not natural.
Your own president.
My own president. You know, um, the same people who claim to have supporting the police officer, back blue, law and order, the rule of law, all these things.
And congressmen, you protected
6th,
every day.
And then
you
on January 6th, you have not one moment where I could have lost my life, but multiple moments. I could have, when I was being pulled like they did to Michael Fanon into the crowd, when I was getting crushed like they were doing not only to me but Daniel Hodges, when we were getting attacked on the police line. So there were multiple things that was happening that day, and it wasn't like in Iraq. You get the mortar rounds and things happening right next to you, but then nothing happened. Like here in January 6th, it was one thing after another. I'm surviving one thing after another in the span of 3 or 4 hours. So that's the difference when I say, for me, January 6th was worse than Iraq. People, whatever their experience was on January 6th, they cannot tell me that what happened to me didn't happen to me, because it happened to me. It didn't happen to them. And the only reason why it didn't happen to them, especially those elected officials, is because they ran to their safe house, to the refuge, with the time that I gave them and my colleagues, with the efforts that we did and we took on that day. Um, you know, I don't know how they could live with themselves by denying or justifying what happened or downplaying what happened. I know if, and they know that if it wasn't because of what we did, they would have had died. Many of them would have had died. And maybe that's the reason why they downplay, because none of them died. And like I said
because
earlier,
of you guys.
yeah, and like I said to you earlier, when they say nothing happened at the Capitol, well, ask them, nothing happened to who? Because it did happen to me. I had the medical bills, I had my scar, I had the video, the pictures to show what I did. And even when that was happening, we were still, some of us, the officers, we were still looking out, not only for ourselves, but for the elected official, and even tending to the wounds of the rioters themselves. If they don't see the humanity in that, then that's on them.
And you've tried engaging some of these Republican congressmen who are denying this, and you tried to speak to them, right?
I had not gone out of my way to seek them, to talk to them. I know Adam Kinzinger,
I got to meet him.
And also Liz Cheney. They're the only one who approached me to actually find out and ask me what happened to me that day. There were others that had seen me on walking here at the Capitol when I was still a police officer, and if they wanted to reach out to me, I'm sure they will find a way to do it. I'm sure they could have just called Capitol Police or one of my colleagues and say, hey, you got Gonell's phone contact information. I would like to speak to him.
So only Cheney and Kissinger.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's sad because not that I need it, the platitudes and things like that. I would just simply do my job. That's on them. I know my conscience is clear. I'm able to go home and sleep. I know I did what I was supposed to. I kept my oath. I did my job the best way I could. And if they have an issue with that type of job or work, then that's on them. And don't tell me that you support me when you don't, because they had the chance and opportunity to condemn what happened, and they had chose to side with the mob, with the violence, with the former president. Mitch McConnell at one point after the impeachment, he said, the second impeachment, he said, well, we can't hold him accountable because he's leaving.
Not logical.
Because he's leaving, he's out of the door of the presidency. But the legal system, the justice system, go hold him accountable. Now he says you can't hold him accountable because he's a former president. And now that you're holding him accountable, it's a political stunt. It's a political anything political. And then, so that means if he wins and get back in power, would he hold him accountable? I doubt it. I think he's going to control himself like he had done in the past. And that's the type of nonsense that they continue to justify all his misconducts.
And I think in part that's why you wrote your book, because this threat isn't over.
This threat is not over. And like I said, these people in American Sho, I try to explain it as clear as possible. What we did was our job, and all these people, what they doing is trying to, despite the sacrifices that we did on that day, they don't see the danger. They don't see that this was not a one-off. That is, if you don't correct it, if you don't hold him accountable or anybody else accountable, then this is bound to be a perennial thing to happen. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want my colleagues here to be thinking if there is another insurrection, are the Republican going to help me secure the door, or are they going to hold me down and prevent me from? And or not only do I have to think about the threat coming from the outside, but I had to watch my back because I don't know whether they're going to hold me down and prevent me from doing my duties.
So you metaphorically felt
scary.
being stabbed in the back, essentially.
And that's scary because that physical injuries are going to be there, the mental trauma is still going to be there, but also the moral injury. I did what I was supposed to. They should have done what they were supposed to, and they didn't. They chose to side with the former president and for political gain. And these people, they don't care about anybody else but themselves and their position. And all they care is about not mending the fabric of this country. They care more about, it's more beneficial to them to keep the fear in the American. If you watch Fox News, you got the left is destroying America. If you watch CNN and the other, the Republicans are destroying America. So it's in a country finds itself in a perpetual cycle that no progress is done. If one party wins, they try to outdo the policy of the previous administration, even though they work, even though it's beneficial to their own constituents, they try to undo it. And if the Democrat win, they try to do the other one. Like, at some point, people need to realize, look, if the program or policies work, keep it in place, let it work. People are beneficial. People are happy. People make progress. It is what it is, But I can't control those things. I can only control my time. I can only control what I do with my actions. Unfortunately, I'm not able to continue policing like I thought I was. So I had to relearn what to do in my life. I had to find another way to earn an income down the road. And people need to also take it to heart when somebody that powerful and influential says they're going to do certain things, then take him as their word. Don't take it as a joke, because he's not joking. He's always pushing the envelope to the point that now every single time he says something, people say, "Oh, he's just talking."
And you're convinced he would be a lot worse in a second term.
Look, he did not. He won't have the same guardrails that he had. The same people.
Half of them were fired. The best people all left.
Look,
and quit or were fired.
All the best people he said he knew turned out, according to him, dumb as a rock. But he's the guy who letting them or selecting them to be, because he knows all the best people. And every single time that they try to do something for the country to prevent him from doing something that is not going to be beneficial for this country, he has thrown them under the bus, including his lawyers. Every single time there's something, oh, I didn't do it. He did it, or he did, or it's always
you wouldn't teach your kid to behave that way.
It's always somebody else. He never takes responsibility, and every single time he does something, then you have the elected officials downplaying or justifying what he did. And I'm sure if I did those things, or any Democrat or any president before him would have done those things, they would have wanted my head on the platter, on a spike, and hold him accountable or throw him in jail. I just find it hard to believe that there's no Republican Party to be dependent upon to defend the Constitution of the United States, because they have sold their soul to this guy. Their loyalty is to the former president.
And you mentioned Cheney and Kinzinger. They're both gone. They're out of office. They're not. Cheney lost her re-election, and Adam Kinzinger,
he was
probably realized.
registered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And they did, but then who else does?
I don't know.
Mitt Romney's leaving.
I mean, you can't. I think it's you cannot just find your courage when it's convenient for you. You cannot find the courage when on your way out the door, like some of these members of Congress and senators are doing. Or now because they're not running for election or they lost their primary or whatever, they find the courage to say, "Well, he's a danger." Well, you have been justifying and excusing his behavior for the past 7 years, and if you would have done that when he did those things, and I think the country would have been in a better shape. You have this guy Mayor, he voted for the second impeachment to convict Trump. And I think a couple of weeks ago they were asking, "Will you support him or Biden?" And he said, "Well, I'll support Donald Trump," even though he convicted him.
Yeah, and William Barr's on TV talking about this, and he won't commit to voting.
He acknowledged that he is a threat.
Yeah.
To her. So they'd rather destroy the country or have this person that potentially is going to destroy the country even further than to vote for somebody who is out not in their party. But that's on them. I cannot do anything more. I'm not in a position of power or anything like that. So
well, and you know what? But you got your book and you got your voice and you're on TV and you are raising awareness. So I think you are having an effect. I do want to get to you talked about how emotionally devastating it wasn't just your injuries, and even at the time, I remember reading your part about your PTSD from Iraq kicking, and even while you were there, and I saw your testimony, and you were choking up the whole. You clearly love this country, and it broke your heart that day. And I was wondering how you were able to move past that and to recover from that, because you really have done so much, and for you to be treated the way you were by your own elected officials, it must have been heartbreaking.
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I do cover this in American Sho, my book. At first, during the aftermath of January 6th, I was a train wreck. It's a lot of things that were happening, a lot of things I had on my mind, a lot of people attacked me. More than 50 people that I know so far have attacked me, and only half of it have been processed through the justice system. So it's still ongoing for me. January 6th hasn't left me. It's been almost 3 years. Just last week I was in court for the guy who injured my right hand. And he got 4 years and a half. And I had to relive some of those videos. I had to watch them. I had to identify myself. I had to attest to what happened, what he did to me. So, through a lot of physical therapy, mental health therapy, I regained some of my balance, my equilibrium. And I continue to do so on a regular basis. One thing that people need to understand, it's not just the physical or the mental injury as well, but you have to take in consideration the moral injury. People tell me that I didn't do my job. When I did my job, I may not have prevented people from going inside the Capitol, but I did prevent the people from getting hurt, killed. And instead of the Republican Party and some of the members, especially the latest one, when I gave my testimony to the January 6th committee, instead of coming and listening to what we said, they went in front to the Justice Department asking the Justice Department to release those same people who attacked me in full uniform, in performance of my duty, because those people were patriots. And again, if those people are patriots, hostages, peaceful protests, then who am I in their story, in their mind? Am I the officer who defended the Capitol, or am I the villain who stopped the mob from stopping the transfer of power. And this is coming from the party of law and order, the rule of law. We support the police, but yeah, they call me a crybaby because I sometimes have emotions because more than 50 people attack me. Sometimes individually, sometimes as a group, sometimes simultaneously, multiple people attacking me at the same time. But they call me a crybaby. If you get attacked by more than 50 people, wouldn't fucking you be crying too? If somebody go into your house and break your doors, your windows, trash your house, threaten your wife, your kid, your dog, your fish, wouldn't you be upset too? Wouldn't you be traumatized? Wouldn't you be having nightmares? You know, so all these things happen to me, and I may be emotional. Guess what? Fucking deal. I learn how to live. I don't care whether you see me cry or not. But guess what? I'm telling you the truth. But you choose to make fun of my accent because I'm telling you the truth that you don't want to hear. But guess what? I know 2 languages. You know 1. So who's the dumbass? You know, people need to understand that what happened here on January 6th, it was not a peaceful protest getting out of hand. It was not a tourist visit. There was things. It was dangerous to the country, and until we actually recognize that, I don't think we're going to be out of the woods. People say, "Oh, show the videos," like Mike Johnson did the other day.
Oh God,
he was like
Speaker of the House right now.
He was like in the same sentence. He goes, "We want transparency," and less than a sentence later, he said, "I'm going to blur out some of the faces." So, what type of transparency that you going to have when you say transparency, blurring, and so these people don't get arrested and persecuted for what they did, the crimes that they did, because what they did was a crime. When they themselves, the elected officials, were the target of the mob, and if it wasn't because of what I did and my colleagues, then those people that he wants to blur out their faces would have been targeted them.
And what do these same officials say about Black Lives Matter protesters?
It's the same one that says, you know what, throw the key away. If it is Black
and that
Lives
mobilized all those different federal agencies when there were protests here in D.C., the Black Lives Matter protests. They had so many. I remember the military was deployed.
Look,
there were Humvees in the streets.
I'm gonna leave you with this because I had to go off.
Gotcha.
What happened here in January 6th was not easy. We did our best. Whether you agree that I'm a villain or a hero, that's up to you and the history books to decide. I know what I did was my oath. I kept my job. I did what I was supposed to. And whether that was a Black Lives Matter group of supporters attacking the Capitol, whether it was Muslims, whether they were Hispanic, or any other group of Trump supporters, my action would still have been the same because my oath was to defend the Capitol, not to defend this group. And you have some of the people in the crowd saying, when the whole world hated you in 2020, we had your back, alluding to the fact that it was a transactional support. I'm like, no, motherfucker, I'm doing my job. I don't know who you talking to. But to close, thank you for
and real quick, final question.
I really have to.
Very final question. In your book, you talked about when you were young in New York, you were looking up to Sammy Sosa and Pedro Martinez as famous Dominican Americans, baseball players. How does it feel to be now one of the most famous Dominican Americans alongside those names? Because you're a huge role model to that community and to many outside now. You've really established yourself.
I used to watch some of these people on professional baseball player or athletes in a way that it gave me hope that one day I'll be some of them. Obviously, I'm not as athletic as they are or they were, I had met some of them, like Pedro Martinez, Pedro Mariscal, David Ortiz. So I have met some of the same people that I mentioned in my book, American Sho. Not because I had gone out of my way to see them or reach out to them. It just happened that I had been in the same place, in the same, as they honor me for my service. I never done, if you look at my career, and if you read American Sho, you're also going to notice this. Throughout my whole life, I have only been doing things to help other people and myself. But probably me as the last part. I always looking out for other people. And on January 6th, it was no difference. Throughout my whole life, everything that I had done, it has not been because I want to win an award, a medal or a coin. It has been because, and if you give it to me, I'll take it. But, as a merit. But that's not what I'm seeking. I had done my job in whatever position of trust I have been on, whether in the military or as a civilian or the police officer. I'm not seeking any of those things because I think if you take your job seriously and you do your job well, then people are going to recognize who you are and the way type of person you are. So on January 6th was no different.
Well, this country's damn lucky to have one more Dominicano come here and fight for us. You fought for all of us. You fought for our democracy. You fought for the Constitution. Too bad the president and his crazy followers couldn't, but you did the right thing, and we all owe a great deal to you. Thank you so much for everything you've done and everything you continue to do.
Thank you. And I think the president, I don't know if I answered your question well, but in the Dominican Republic, a lot of people know about me. They know I'm humble. They know that my character is, I'm a good person. And I try to be that way. It's not a front. It's not like, I think people know me who I am because that's how I am. And I think there's Joe Biden just 2 days ago, I received a letter from him. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter.
He loved your book.
He loved the book, and he said, "Thank you for who you are." My wife sometimes she tells me that I need to start thinking about myself a little more rather than other people. But that's how I grew up. That's how my grandfather taught me to be, and I try to be that person to have, I guess, the first person that I want to be at peace with himself is myself, and then have my son also to look at me the way I wanted to look at my parents and my family members as well.
Well, I hope you know there have to be kids coming from the DR even today who are saying to themselves, "I hope I can grow up to be like Aquilino Gonell."
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I really have to go because this guy is calling me.
There you have, loyal listeners. That was Staff Sergeant and former Capitol Police Officer Aquilino Gonell. I have very little to add to his powerful, moving, and very direct and raw discussion he had with me on the grounds of the Capitol, where he fought to defend all of us on January 6, 2021. Definitely go buy his book, American Shield, which I have right in front of me, The Immigrant Sergeant Who Defended Democracy by Aquilino Gonell and Susan Shapiro. Definitely try to donate to my site if you're willing to as well, and to share my work in this podcast and my written work on Real Context News. Definitely make sure to take his messages, his warnings to heart, because he believes in this country, and that's why he's spending time and energy warning us, because he thinks if he raises awareness that we can and will do better, and we owe that to him. We have to do better. We must do better. So thanks to all of you for listening. Thank you so much. Thanks so much to Aquilino Gonell, truly a hero, and it was an honor sitting with him. And a little bit of housekeeping. After my previous podcast, in which I discussed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with a Jerusalem-based journalist, Noga Tarnopolsky, I am now discussing the same with the amazing Rula Jibril, who is frequently on CNN, MSNBC, has written multiple books, is a professor here in the U.S. now, but she is Palestinian, specifically Palestinian-Israeli. She was actually raised in an orphanage in East Jerusalem, but she also has Italian citizenship, and she also has spent a lot of time covering Italian politics and immigration in particular. But anyway, she's an incredibly fascinating individual, and we'll be talking Israel, Gaza, Hamas, Palestine, all of that, most likely later today. So I will try to get that out to you guys relatively soon after, hopefully in the next few days. But thank you for joining us. So we have Rula coming up, Rula Jibril, and we have other great people coming as well on this podcast, which I'm very pleased to have resurrected and to be bringing to you now. Thank you so much for listening today, and please do take what Aquilino Gonell has said to heart.